Welcome back to Hot Rod Guy Garage. Today we're going to work on 66 Mustang some more, so follow me on through the intro and I'll be back. So alright guys, so it has probably been a few days to a week since you've seen the last video, and we need to get started back on 66 Mustang. But first, make sure you check out our friends over at Kentucky Mustang. There'll be a link and a discount code down in the description below. So in our last video we got the driver's side door, quarter panel, and the trunk lid finished up. And in this video we need to move on to the cowl panel, the passenger door, and passenger quarter panel, along with the roof. Fortunately, I hope the roof don't need a whole lot of work. So in order to maintain a budget, meaning to do this as cheap as possible, we need to use as little materials as possible. So that's been kind of the goal here. So we're just going in here and fixing the big stuff and just trying to make a driver quality or a race car paint job for under 300 bucks. So let's get started. But first, Daisy would like to remind you, check out our merchandise store down below because it gets her more treats and more pets, and she really enjoys everybody watching her. So I come in here in the background where we deleted the cowl in this car. If you don't remember, this is just top panel because I deleted the lower in here. So we had a weld seam along top up here. We had a weld seam where we took out the cowl vent and the wiper stalks. So I went in here with an initial fill of some kitty hair. And what that does is to seal off any weld joints, any pinholes in those welds. And the reason why I use this or any kind of short strand fiberglass reinforced filler is because it is waterproof. Alternately, you could always use all metal, and that was usually my go-to, but it is a little more expensive, so this is the route we're going. That said guys, not all inexpensive products are bad, but they all have different uses. The thing with all metal, it's a little thinner, it gets into a little more places than the kitty hair will, but like I said, it's about double the cost. So that's what we're doing. So like I said, I've got our initial fill in there. We need to mix up some regular filler, skim this cowl where we can get our initial work down and see what all we're going to have to do. So what I do, like in our last video, we're going to use our Evercoat Z-Grip. This is a more inexpensive line filler and would probably be the cheapest line filler I would prefer to use in a budget type environment. We did go in here in our last video and thin this down with a little fiberglass resin to make it a little more flowable. The thing with fillers, guys, is you definitely get what you pay for with this stuff. The more expensive stuff, you're going to have less pinholes, it's going to spread easier, it's going to dry faster, it's going to sand better. And all that generally equates, and especially in a production shop environment, is to a lower cost. So for our cowl, we're going to need quite a bit to skim coat this. So I'm going to make about a 4-inch semicircle here on our board. When I say about, it's hard to, you know, get this stuff out in a round circle. So about is the word that's close enough. And like I showed you in the last video, you want to knead your hardener real well. Just to make sure you don't have any liquidy stuff to run out. But the way I do this, I'll just start on one side and run one bead straight across like that, and that'll generally give you about the perfect mix ratio. And a lot of people will get upset when you mix this stuff. They'll tell you to lightly fold it, not to fold it, not to spin it around. You'll get air in it if you do this, and that's what gives you your pinholes. I've done it a bunch of different ways, including just mashing the hardener in it. It don't really make a difference. Just mix it however it works for you guys. If you got pinholes, you can always go back in here a little later and straighten it out. But once you activate this stuff, you're on a time limit. So you need to get to work fast. And what I'm going to do, since this is going to be our initial fill, I'm just going to go in here and I'm just going to put just a thin, even coat over everything. So I'll be back when I get this all spread out. So our filler is tacked up. It's not 100% hard yet, but it's semi-rigid. And at this point, we want to go in there and knock down any high spots. That way we can kind of see what we got. And as you can see, I sprayed it with a little black paint as a guide coat, and that'll give me a good insight into any places we may need to or take away any filler. And you'll see me guide coat filler a lot, just like you did in the last video. What that does, that's going to minimize the amount of filler that I actually put in this panel. Because when we get down to the metal, when I work this down, we should be able on our second coat for our second one to be our final. A lot of guys will throw a ton in there and just work it down until it's straight, not worrying about thickness. Doing it this way, make sure that you minimize the amount of filler you've actually got in the vehicle. Filler's not meant to be thick, guys. It's meant to be thin and literally to fill small imperfections. So the least amount you can put in it, the better off you are. So let's get started. And as you can see, after our initial work down, we have a couple of large low spots. Right here, remember we welded the wiper stock in here, probably caused some warpage in the cowl in this area. This is on top of our panel we welded in, probably just a little bit of warpage from that area. So we got metal here, we got metal there, and I've got some metal along the edge, which was my stop point of working this down. And if you noticed, I worked this area first, then I come up here and worked this area this way, and then in the end I come in here and kind of blended this together. So for our second fill, I'm going to concentrate on these low areas right here. All these little lows right here, and they're not huge, guys, by no means. They look bad because we guide coated this. That's exactly what we wanted to do in order to be able to visually see it. So I'm going to mix up a little more filler. I'm going to skim these places first. Then I'll come back in here and I'll lightly skim the rest of it. And for our next work down, should be our last work down. I'm telling you guys, this is a lot less wasteful way to do this than skimming the whole panel. Unfortunately, with this cowl, we had to skim the whole thing because I've cut literally all over it and all the way around it. So try it. You will use less filler even though it feels like you use more. You really don't. In doing this kind of stuff, guys, you have quite a bit of downtime when you're waiting on things to kind of cure out or harden up in certain ways where you can do other things. So I think while we're waiting on this second coat of filler on the cowl to kind of tack out, I just put it in just a few seconds ago, I think we need to go ahead and get the paint stripped off this passenger door. So let's get that started. That little Bauer SCT tool, which is a surface conditioning tool, you can either strip paint or prep metal with it, depending on the pad, works pretty fast to the point that I know you guys can hear that. That's literally about 7 or 8 minutes worth of work. So now I just gotta get some asphalt on this door so I can get into some of this little rusty stuff that was under the primer and get it neutralized, and then we can start working on our cowl again. Stay on the clean spots or you get your paws all dusty. I swept you a trail all the way over there to where your cat castle is. You think we're doing okay work? Oh, holding your head down, that's not good. Alright guys, so got that cowl, spraying some primer, a little guide coat. It should be good for some high build here in just a little while, whenever we get all the rest of our bodywork finished up here. Now it's time to move on to this door. And this door is super rough, even compared to the other one. You can kind of see it there. I don't know why it's having focusing problems, but this is not a nice door by no means. And we got this down here too. So I'm going to show you a few different ways that you could address something like this. The ideal way would have been to put a door bottom in this door. In fact, it would probably just been an ideal situation just to find a whole nother door, considering how rough this one is. But we'll get into that here in just a second. Let's get some kitty hair mixed up. Well, you didn't like that too much, do you? I said the word kitty hair. Why, I was talking about rust holes. Maybe we need to get some off you. Here, we get some of this. We get some of this. Think you need to go get back on your cat castle before you get too dusty. You gotta keep you safe. So alright guys, if you're going to botch one up, that's what we're going to do with these doors. You want to take and clean every bit of this rust out you can. You want to treat it on the inside and outside. You want to make sure this door has no dirt in the bottom of it. The reason why this rots out in the first place, dirt gets in here, it sits and gets damp, and that's what causes all this rust. But if you're going to do this, you need to take a pointed body hammer and tap all this rust down. You want it below the door level. Or if it comes out, even better, like that. As you can see, we still got some crusty stuff behind here. So I'll hit that again with a wire brush. You want to get as much of this junk out as you can. I do not condone doing this, nor do I recommend it. But if you have an old car, you just want to doll it up a little bit, not to sell it, but to enjoy it for yourself, this is an option. So I got this all kind of peeled back. Let me get a wire brush. I'm going to treat this with some Osfo, and then I'll be back. And make sure guys that you wire brush this good and you let this stuff sit there and do its job until all this turns 100% black. And this is not a long-term, long-lasting solution. I'm only doing it on this car because these doors are garbage. You've seen it in many videos now that these doors are junk. I cannot afford a new set of doors. I cannot afford a set of fiberglass doors. So in order to kind of slick this car up a little bit, make it look somewhat decent for our drag and drive stuff that we're going to be doing, this is going to be the route that we're taking. And I could totally weld a piece of metal in it. But why waste time? Why waste time on this? When metal gets rusty, it gets thin. And it don't matter how clean you get it on the front side if you don't get that back side clean. It will rot back out. I do know quite a few people that would just fill that full of Bondo and then tell you the car's solid, unfortunately. That's more of the rule than the exception. So if you're going to buy a classic car, guys, carry you a magnet. A refrigerator magnet works well. for these kind of situations. It will not stick where filler is thick. So I'll show you a good example of that here in just a moment. All right, guys, when I say refrigerator magnet, something like this Rock Auto magnet, you know, these things don't stick real well anyway. They can give you good insight. You do not want to use something like this that is strong. You heard it, I just clicked on the car. You don't want to use something strong like that. So let me show you on the driver's side of this. We all know where the filler's at on the driver's side from our previous video. Let's see what sticks and what don't. All right, as you can see, our magnets stick here to the side. This is where I section that quarter, and there is filler right here. You just see it move where the filler's a little thicker. Down here where that double seam's at. A magnet like this will tell you a lot about an old car. However, you get a magnet like this, even down here where it's a little thicker, this magnet sticks well. And even on into where I mold this pan in, and it's fairly thick right here, you can see that magnet sticks super well. This magnet won't stick at all in these areas. Our wheel well flares. See, a Rock Auto magnet sticks where its quarters seam together. Right in here, our Rock Auto magnet sticks. Except right here, it's a little thicker in this area because we had a low spot. Our big magnet sticks super well. So what I'm trying to kind of hone through here, guys, is a magnet like this will save you a bunch of time with a car. A little filler's not gonna hurt. A lot of filler hides bad sins. So as you can see, we got that thick spot right there where we had all them dents in this door. And that filler's probably not a 1/16 of an inch thick right there. You see this magnet sticks good to it, where our Rock Auto one's at the floor. And if you go look at an old car and somebody don't want you to stick a magnet like this on it, walk away. These will not scratch if they're clean. And I don't know about you, I got a billion of them, so they're easy to access. And when I say this magnet is not real strong, guys. It's got like a very little pull force. You take something like this rare earth magnet I got stuck in my toolbox, you hear it, it's gonna stick even through the thickest amount of filler. So while our OSFO is cooking in the bottom front side of that door to do things that we shouldn't be doing, but we're gonna do them anyway. But we're not gonna try to pass this car off on anybody. We need to go up here at the top where it's super rough, where this door was caved in and I beat it back out. And they pulled it back out sometime in the 70s or early 80s. And get our initial feel in the top half of this door. While that stuff down there does its cooking. So let me put you on the big stand and I'll be right back. Alright, after way more filler than I wanted to put in that to get our initial coat, on this one I'm not going to guide coat it. I am, however, going to go over it with our cheese grater and level it down the best I can. Then we'll hit it with some 36 and guide coat it at that point. Assuming that it's not as bad as what I anticipate it to be in that area. I may have to go back in there with a hammer and dolly and address a few things, but I can't until I see what we're actually working with. Yeah, it's bad. I told you guys this. That's where we're going to botch the rust up in the bottom of it. So, yep. All right. This is our initial work down. This is kind of bad to see, really. We got metal here, which this dent run down like this across this door down, you know, this way, and then there was one up here too. So I expect it to be super bad in these areas. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna mix up some more kitty hair because this is gonna be a heavy fill area. I want the hardest filler possible in it. I'm gonna hit these big spots alone, and especially right there. As you see, we didn't hit none of this in this area, and we got a running low spot here and there. So, and a lot of you, well, why didn't you just hammer and dolly it out better? Because the metal, guys, is well overworked. Like I said, it's been worked multiple times, not just by me, but by somebody else. So at this point, to even be able to use this door, we got to try to save it. This is the only way to save it. I think at the end here, we're going to end up with a magnet, not even that strong magnet will stick to this door in these areas, but we'll see. The filler, even though it looked like it was mega thick, it wasn't really, guys. It's still probably, you know, in the 1/16 of an inch maybe range at this point. So it looks ugly. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be ugly until we get it straightened out. So let me mix up some more and get them put in these places. Well, our second fill was a lot better. We're kind of roughed out in the shape. It's still rough. Don't get me wrong. But there's not going to be a large amount of regular filler over the top of this, if that makes sense. Our Osfo has done a good job cooking. I went down through here, some of these pinholes. I went in there and just pushed the end of that pointed hammer in them and wiggled it around a little bit. Same way back here, did the same thing, tapped it down a little bit. We'll go ahead and mix some up and get in the bottom of this door. That way I can show you some helpful tips when it comes to doing things not the right way. So use this stuff as you feel needed, guys. Don't use it to defraud anybody. Don't use it to take anybody's money or be dishonest, because that's just not the right way to do things. However, if you're building a race car like I am, and this is the only option, like it is mine, this is the only way we're going to have a car that looks somewhat decent. So, you know, let me mix up some more kitty hair, and then I'll be back. Step one, I loosely taped the inside of the door. This is going to be important to make it not look like it's full of filler in the bottom. Because, guys, you don't want it caked. I mean, you might, you know, if you don't care, just take it on there. But doing it this way prevents any kind of air bubbles, because as you push this stuff in, it's going to try to push it back out and make sure it is sealed around the inside of these holes. Especially in these corners, that piece of tape will help it from, you just keep feeding it inside this door and then you end up with a blob like this. Up there in the front, don't have no choice because you can't get to it. But the rest of it, you can. Is it bad? I don't even want to show you guys how to do this, because, you know, it's not the right way to fix something. I've said that about 1,000 times so far. But sometimes you don't have an option. Alright guys, after you get this mixed up, you want to mix this very, very well. You do not want to use any kind of regular filler. You want to use either all metal or what I'm calling kitty hair, which is a fiberglass reinforced filler that has strands in it. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to put some in this hole. And what I'm doing, I'm just getting it on my spreader about in the position of her hole. And we're just going to feed this in there. And an important thing to note, you do not want to leave any kind of air holes in this. Don't care if it's lower than the outside the door or not. Just make sure there is absolutely no air holes in this. Okay? Because this stuff is waterproof, this is going to give it its best chance of survival. Now, your smaller holes, like these I got further back right here, these are a good example. You're going to take this, you're going to push this in there as hard as you can with your spreader. I want to see it start bubbling, pushing back out like little pimple heads, so to say. That lets me know that that's pushing against that tape, and every time we push this in tight, it's pushing behind that tape just slightly and making a little plug. And we're just going to repeat this all the way down this door. And now we let it tack up, just like we did when we done our initial coat. When it gets where it's not pull it off with your finger, but tacky, meaning it's still kind of sticky, but it's harder than, you know, liquid. I'm gonna hit it with some 36 grit, knock the head off of it, and then I will be back, guys. And when I say tacky, I put a little more in our center of our door. You can see I can leave my fingerprint on it, but I can't rub it off, right? That's not quite the point yet, because you can still take your fingernail and I can scrape that off super easy. You can see it right there. So you want to wait until it's a little firmer. You'll still be able to scratch it off, but it'll be kind of a hard jello type of consistency. And that's when we'll knock this stuff off the bottom of this door. So I think I've done my due diligence of telling you that this is the bad way to do this and not the right way to do it. So you're on your own if you do it and what you do with that information. So I'm gonna give this a few minutes. We'll come in here, buzz this off, and then I'll be back. And after you get your initial knockdown, make sure 100% you don't have any pinholes in this. I had a couple of small holes to the inside, so I went back in there and put just a touch more. But let me show you. I pulled the tape off the inside. And what putting the tape on here does is lets this make plugs around the inside of these pits where, you know, even though you tape it, it still has a little gap. So what that does is just help lock that in. Same way over here in the corner and up there in the front, which we can't see. I'm sure it is just all globbed in there. So at this point, you need to spray something on top of the inside of this. Even though this is waterproof, this is still not foolproof. So you want to go in here and you want to coat the inside. Not with undercoating, but with some kind of good cheap enamel. Just cake it in there, guys, because it's going to help seal it off. It's going to give it the best chance of survival. And if you feel like you want to spray some undercoat after your paint is dried, go right ahead. And that concludes Hackery 101 as far as rust holes go. Take the backside of it, let it form plug. Make sure you kill as much rust as you possibly can. Beat that stuff in. Press that filler in there. Only use a waterproof filler. Do not use Bondo. Bondo, 3 months, if that long, it will come out of the bottom of these doors. It'll start swelling, it'll start rusting. If you use something like this kitty hair or all metal, you might get a few years out of it before it starts getting ugly again. So try to give yourself the best chances of survival. So guys, at this point, I'm ready to start putting some real filler in the top of this door. So I think I've got all our heavy fill stuff took care of. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna skim coat everywhere and then pass it a few inches with regular filler. Then I'll come in here and guide coat it like I have on the cowl and what I've done in previous videos. I'll just go a couple of inches past, all the way around, top, bottom, sides, you know, the whole nine. Guide coat it. And then I'm gonna run over it with our 36 grit on our airfoil. And you know, that'll give us an idea of where we stand. If we're going to have to put more filler in it, I'll put more filler in it then. If it starts to look pretty good after that point, I will lightly skim it again, guide coat it one more time, hit it with the airfoil with some 80 grit, and right before it's about there, I will switch to a hand block, and I will hand block these areas, and that gives us our best chance to have a straight panel. So let me get to it and I'll be back. So while we wait on our filler to dry, I think I'm gonna go ahead and strip the rest of the paint off this quarter panel. So let's get to that while we wait. I'm gonna try to catch this before this OSPO starts hazing up. You look at that quarter panel, guys, we're gonna have a lot of fun ahead of us yet. So I got all the paint off the quarter, except obviously in between our weld seams right there, but that was already stripped and ground to clean metal. So I got all our previous collision damage cleaned out back here. All that cleaned up right here, all up through here. Cleaned out our seal, all the way up to this edge of this roof up here. As I'm waiting on filler to dry, I'm going to start stripping the roof and treating it with OSPO as I go, in between waiting on filler to dry, because I spend more time waiting on this to get to a point where it's good and tacky, but I can't scratch it off with my fingernails, so I can start working it. Because I'm also having to mix it a little light on hardener because it is humid and hot in the shop. It's 87 degrees outside, it is 80 degrees in here. So it's pretty toasty to be shut up in here with no airflow, other than the ventilation fan on the wall. And I turn that on when I'm sanding or y'all are on time lapse, so it doesn't kind of infer with, you know, you guys being able to hear. So let me get started and I'll be back. I got about 99.9% paint off the roof. I still got to get some off these A-pillars. But I've done put some OSPO up here, and as you can see, it's already starting to do its thing. One thing I couldn't see before, we got some little dents right here. Looks like somebody's dropped something on this thing. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 there. And we got a little dent right here above the rear window, a little small one. Got one on the other side. But most of that up there, the primer had done dissolved, and it was just literally the surface rust that was left behind. So got a little dent up here, right here, and we got one right here. So hopefully the roof will convert over pretty decent, and that'll be a pretty easy fix panel. So no hidden ugly surprises like the 65 had in the roof, so that's good. I'd rather fix a few dents than, you know, deal with a thumb-sized rust hole and I had to weld up. Good thing about this car, around the windows, is real decent. There is one pinhole over here on the passenger side top, and I mean a pin-sized hole like the tip of an ink pen. I'll get that all converted over, and I'll just put a little kitty hair in it. It'll be fine. Same with the rear window channel. I just had a couple little small pinholes in the bottom of it. Nothing major, nothing bad. Still 110% the car that the 65 was when we started. So I'm gonna get back to work on the door, guys, and then I'll be back. So I've been working along on this door, and I've got it worked down where it's good and straight. I had to go back in. I had a couple of pinholes in this area right here. Once that cures out, I can sand that down. And there was a little spot up here, a little rust hole I actually forgot about. There was a little pin-sized hole, like a needle pin, not an ink pen, right here. And I know in the last clip I said something about an ink pen sized hole in front up here. It is right here, and you can't hardly see it. The rest of this just pits. That is by far the worst spot on the front window channel. Like I said, also is going to do its job. I'm going to put a little more on it. I'm going to wire brush it off one more time, put a little more on it until I start to see some cleaner metal coming through, like up here. Unfortunately, I'm running dangerously low on filler at this point. Yeah, we'll go into that a little bit deeper, but this quarter panel right here, guys, I don't know if you can see my hand. We got a place right here, and we got a place right here. You go back to our first video on this car, you can see this quarter panel in its full glory, and where I had to beat it all back out back here from where it'd been hit in the back. So I wish I'd had the money to, you know, put 2 quarters in it, but sometimes you gotta work with what you got. All of a sudden, I went through about a quarter of the filler though that I went through on the 65, having to skim coat every single panel. When you skim coat panels, you waste a ton of filler, guys. At this point, I'm gonna flip around and I'll show you where I'm at on supplies and how that's gonna affect our budget in the end. So I had to get another quart of kitty hair. I got that the other day, so there's another 20 something bucks down. Our original tub of filler here, and I know there's some waste around the edge that I can scrape back off and put back in here, but we're you see the bottom right there. This amount of filler right here is not going to be enough to take care of that quarter panel. So the budget's going to be super tight, guys, because yeah, we're gonna get there real quick. And that's me doing all the work myself. So just think, you know, $300. A lot of people scoff at that kind of money and think, oh, well, you can pay the car for $300. No, you can't, guys, not anymore. See that guy, JP Paintworks or whatever on Facebook, saying he paints cars for $500. That man ain't making a dime. And while he's not putting out show quality work, guys, he is putting out decent stuff, but man, he can't be making nothing for his time. So, you know, and I'm not talking about, you know, getting rich here. I'm talking about, I'm just doing this on my own project here, and I'm telling you, it's going to be pushing it. So we may have to move our $300 budget to a $400 budget. And at this point, and this is 3 days total time since the first video. So if you do that, you know, at a normal, let's just say, you know, 8 times 3, I mean, that's 24 hours of somebody's time. And there ain't nobody gonna work in a shop for less than $100 an hour shop rate anymore. That's $2,400 worth of work I've already done on this 66 Mustang, labor wise. You know, so good paint jobs aren't cheap, and cheap paint jobs aren't good. So we're gonna see how far we can get on the cheap, doing all the labor ourselves. So let me get back to it, guys, and I'll be back. And the door is roughed in, so it definitely looks a lot better than what it did. It's still got a few little places in it that I hope some high build will block out. So at this point, it's been a full day between our cowl up here and this door, and stripping the paint off the quarter panel and the roof up there. And that's also, I'm going to stop on my way home tonight and grab some more filler. Hopefully another quart will be enough to finish this quarter and the roof. So, you know, that's part of it, guys. We're gonna try to do this the cheapest way we can. So it's gonna be the cheapest way is just buy another quart. And I know we still got the front end to do, but hopefully it being fiberglass, and you know, there's not gonna be a whole lot of things to fix up there, but you know how that goes, right? So I'll see y'all tomorrow. Wish me luck. Well, it's the next day and I was just getting started. I stopped last night at the local parts store and grabbed some more file sheets. which added to our budget. Unfortunately, I'm pretty positive we're not going to be able to do this for $300 because I already have, personally at this moment, over $300 worth of material in the car as it sits. Yeah, guys, it adds up fast, especially at nowadays prices. 10 years ago, you could probably do this pretty easily, but, you know, it's just not possible. And let me tell you, I'm stretching materials to their thinnest, being sure that I use sandpaper and file sheets and DA pads or whatever until they're completely wore out. But I want to show you one of my biggest gripes here. And I showed you when we opened the Z-Grip that it wasn't all the way full. It was only about a little over half a gallon, you know. Let's give it the benefit of the doubt at 3/4, right? Well, I stopped last night and got another quart filler because I was like, another quart. That gives us a nice little safety cushion to finish up that quarter pound, right? Well, I just opened it up and I'm going to flip around and show it to you. So, got this at the O'Reilly's. It had a piece of tape on it holding the, you know, the hardener to it. So, I popped this open, guys. It's brand new. You can see I ain't even mixed it up. This thing is literally right here. You can agree with that right there. That's a little over halfway full in a quart container. When do we all get comfortable being robbed by these companies? And when I say robbed, of course it says 0.8 of a liter on it, right? That's, yeah, probably not. When you buy a quart container, you expect a quart. When you buy a gallon container, you expect a gallon of said things. So, yeah. So, at this point, we didn't even have our original gallon between the gallon jug of the Evercoat Z-Grip and this quart of the U-Paul stuff, right? The kitty hair, the Bondo brand stuff, or Evercoat, Bondo, they all pretty much come from the same place, guys. They're all pretty much the same thing. The Bondo brand filler you buy at the parts stores, that is the lowest line stuff that 3M actually makes. So keep that in mind. When did we get comfortable with these companies robbing us like this? And I'm not going to say that this quart was cheap. It was like 26 bucks and I bought it through my commercial account. Which means I get a little better deal than off the shelf price, but not a significant amount, right? Everything else I bought over the counter. But man, really, this is the state we're in nowadays. We start giving these companies a little pushback, guys, we might actually start getting things back like they used to be. So, yeah, I'm not happy about this at all. So, let me get things set up for today, and we'll start on this quarter panel and go from there. All right, so I got our first coat of kitty hair on our welds right here. So I come in here and I taped up this quarter extension just like I did the other one, but I went a little more extreme. And what kitty hair I had left over from sealing the welds, I come back here from this quarter and I started kind of building this up. This quarter is super overworked here. The metal is thin and stretched to the point that it's not going to get any better. Unfortunately, it is rock hard, the metal back here. Except, you know, in the areas you need to beat out, and then it's so soft that you can't really work it any. So our choice is, I got to build this up with some kitty hair, and as you can see, I worked it out quite a bit just here where the bare metal's at. Compared to what this quarter was, this thing was actually pushed in to about this point right here. So to get it back out in somewhat of a shape of the quarter panel and to be able to bolt an extension on it is a miracle all in its own. So I'm gonna mix up some more kitty hair. We're gonna put that in there and we'll move forward. I'm gonna take my cheese grater here and hit some of these ridges and high spots and knock them off, and then we'll get to that. And to the point that I get done putting kitty hair in this quarter panel, the whole quarter panel may actually be built out of kitty hair, so we'll see. So let's get to it. Alright, so got our second initial fill of all the bad areas. You curious why I put a big blob here, guys? We had some pretty big lows right here that you can't access from the inside. Not easily. Because of the inner wheelhouse to roof brace area. And I know I could probably use stud welder and pull some more of that out, but it's not going to matter. Eventually, we're going to probably make this car fastback, and you know, this quarter panel don't matter. But I want to show you another helpful tip. I had to go back in here and add a little bit over here in this corner. And I left it over the top. I just wanted to show you guys, you can just take a new razor knife and go down in here and run between your quarter extension like that if you have to do this. You want to do it while this filler's still a little, you know, little flexible and gooey. Meaning you can't disturb it, but you can still kind of leave fingerprints on it. And it'll leave a little, you know, you see how it cleaned my finger from the rest of the dirt. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and pull this quarter extension off. This will be ready to just kind of work down at that point. Along with that, once it gets a little more tacky, we'll hit it with a little of the 36 grit on the air file. I went ahead and went in here and guide coated this a little bit so I can run our air file over it and see any major low spots that may be hiding in this area that appears to be fairly straight. And then we can move on to our filler stuff. And I'm sure a bunch of you will be curious. Rock auto magnet. Yep. It don't stick. Same on our door up here where we had all that filler right here in the center. As you see, it don't stick. But I want to show you something scary, guys. Remember how I done that down there at the bottom, right? Remember we had that big old hole right there, but we had metal all around it, right? Now, you're not going to just throw it on there and it stick. But if you go slow, and you just try to be gentle, say car's painted, you stick it on there. You get back here, because this magnet is bigger. We had metal up here and we had metal behind it and metal around it, so it will stick. Just like here. Let's see. So the magnet trick is just a good idea, but not always foolproof. I just figured some of you'd be curious. I knew it wouldn't stick to the middle of that door. It's not super thick, even though it looked like it was, but it's enough that, you know, this weak magnet isn't strong enough to, you know, do things. Now, if you take a magnet like this, it's about twice as strong, or one that's 3 times as strong like this one, it'll definitely stick. I actually watched a video on Facebook last night of a young kid talking about how his Chevrolet truck hadn't been botched up and was full of rust, and he was using like that rare earth magnet I have. The silver one that's super strong. Yep, put your refrigerator magnet on that, buddy. See what happens. So, let's get this stuff worked done. Well, got our initial work down done. And when I started seeing metal, I stopped. So, looks like our initial fill in this top spot done pretty well. This is very, very minor. I had a couple of spot wells pop back up, so I come in here and just ground them down. I'll put a little more kitty hair in there, along with a little more in this area, because it's still a pretty good size low. And I will probably put a small spread in this area right here, because that's pretty deep. That's pretty deep. I don't really want to beat on it, because we might start disturbing this area, which is actually fairly straight, till we get down here at the very bottom of it. So this just needs a little bit more in these couple little small spots. And once that stuff's worked down, we can put some regular filler in it. So I'm gonna mix up just a little more kitty hair and put in those areas. And when that cures out in the background, I'll come here and knock those two places down. And I'll be back when it's time to put the regular filler in it. Well, that's a wrap. Scraped up about the best I could. Can't get it all, get most of it. So what little bit was left in this can got us to this point right here. So hey, I'm gonna go ahead and just skim this whole quarter on this car just because it's so rough, guys. I think it's gonna give us the best result. So I'm gonna open up the new one over there that I filled it up with this morning the rest of the way, and then we'll continue to skim coating this quarter. I think it's going to be the easiest way to get the nicest result, at least on that side, just because, yeah, it's rough. So I'm going to skim it all. We're going to guide coat it, then we'll bust it down, and hopefully we can get this in a 1 or 2 shot deal. So let's get to it. Alright, so the quarter panel skim coating, it is already straighter than what it was. Literally, you could just knock the little high spots off and spray some paint on it, and it would look 100 times better than what it was. So I sprayed some guide coat on it, guys. It's still little I don't know if you can hear that. It's still a little tacky. So once it sits up a few more minutes, I'm going to hit it with some 36, just kind of rough cut it in, and we'll go from there. All right, so our initial cut with 36 is done. There is a few places I'm going to have to go in here and touch with a little more filler. Some of them will work out with 80 grit. So I'm going to mix up a little bit more, get it put in this quarter, and then we'll go from there. But first, this place right here is going to be a problem. I can physically feel that it is pretty large of a hump. So I'm just going to go in there and just work it down a little bit, and I'll make sure to skim coat that with a little more filler, but you could actually feel that hump of metal out. Like this one right here, you don't. This one up here, you don't. But that one was very well predominant, so hopefully that'll take care of that issue. hopefully this is the last skim coat there and there. And went ahead and skim coated our lead seam transitioner. Just kind of smoothed it up a little bit. There shouldn't need to be a whole lot of things going up there. And in the background, I went ahead and fixed this little dent up here on the roof, and I've started on the big one over there on the other side. So far today, as I choke, I am about 8 hours into this quarter panel. This quarter panel is very, very, very rough. It was very, very rough. It would have saved a ton of time just to went ahead and put a quarter panel in it. Sometimes, guys, that's why a place will recommend putting a panel in something even though you don't think it needs it. Kind of like the 65 and the front fenders and the doors and stuff don't need tons of body work. It needed fenders and doors. It would have saved him a lot of money in the end. But sometimes you just got to work with what you got. So let me get back to it, and hopefully when I come back, we'll be ready to spray some primer on this stuff. Alright guys, I went ahead and addressed the A-pillars up here too. I actually forgot about the lead seams where they had blasted it, so I fixed both sides. And I come in here and finally got some black primer, some guide coat spray on this quarter panel and the lower rocker down here at the bottom, as I bump in the refrigerator and about fall down. So at this point, our roughed in body work on the main chassis is completed. And I was talking about, we were already over budget, guys. We're at $313 at this current moment. And we still got the front end to go. Fiberglass front end, let's hope that goes smooth. I still got about half the amount of the filler that I bought this morning. So it was half full quart, so I got about a quarter of a quart left. Hopefully that will be enough to address any issues that might pop up on the main body and the front end. Yeah, don't hold your breath, all right? So we may have to actually raise our budget to probably $500, and that'll leave us 180 something bucks, right? Surely we can get some high build primer and some kind of cheap line paint for that. Maybe, possibly. I doubt it. We'll see. It's all about trying to push for this goal, guys. I have went through a ton of materials, and you're not going to on most cars. This car, like I said several times in this, it is extremely rough, or it was extremely rough. So that drives your cost up, which drives your budget up, unfortunately. If you had a good straight old car that didn't need any body work, could you pay it for $300? Yes, you could. If you've got a rough old car that's got a bunch of rust, beat all to death, can you do it? No, you can't. So, I'm wore out. At this point, we're about 10 hours today. And that 10 hours, like I said, has been spent in this quarter panel. And as I was waiting on filler to dry, I went ahead and finished the rocker panel up and some places on the roof, and I went back and touched some other places on the car, you know, just to occupy my mind while, you know, we were waiting on filler to dry. So the quarter panel feels pretty good. Once we get it in high build, that will be the telltale, because the high build will dry to some kind of a semi gloss to a satin sheen. So I'll be able to kind of judge reflections as we go there. But am I going to go back in here and do any major body work past this point? Absolutely not. This is pretty much how it's going to ride. If there's anything bad, it's going to ride with it. I don't think there's anything going to be super noticeable, but we really need to start thinking about the paint job we're going to put on this car. So I'm going to need you guys to kind of give me some input down in the comments down there. So we're going to have to do and this is going to be cliche to say this, we need to do a gasser style paint job for Six Smokies van. A gasser style paint job is literally a 60s race car to early 70s race car paint job. To call it a gasser paint job is a little biased, right? So Think AFX, think Super Stock, think gasser classes, think just about anything from 60s. You know, loud paint, lettered up, very cool. And the next question is, do we paint this thing a flat color? Do we paint it a shiny color? Do we do a fake patina paint job? I think I would like to kind of get that information out there too. I have personally done quite a few fake patina jobs that aren't like most fake patina jobs. That means they actually look real. So that's always a possibility too. So just let me know down there in the comments. So guys, at this point, I think this is where I'm going to cut this video off. And our next one, we will pick up getting this thing into some high build primer. So we still got a bunch of stuff to do. I still got a bunch of stuff seam seal where we cut inside the wheel wells and stuff. All that stuff's got to be cleaned up, wire brushed, yada, yada, yada. The door jambs, roof rails, all that stuff has to be sanded and addressed. So there's plenty of work to still do. Hopefully most of that's just going to be labor. So that said, guys, if you like these kind of videos, hit that like button, share them with your friends. If you're not a subscriber, hit that subscribe button because it does help the channel to grow. If you are a subscriber, I greatly appreciate you guys. And I look forward to everybody's comments down below. So until next one, guys, thank you for watching, and I'll see you at the next one.